So I will kick us off by talking about the nexus of a European public sphere, European solidarity, and European cohesion. And I do this based on some data tools that we have done at my think tank, ECFR. First, I'll use the EU Cohesion Monitor, which is a tool that ECFR has developed already in 2015 that helps us to understand what makes EU countries and societies stick together. So our index analyzes EU citizens' experiences, their expectations, what they believe, their levels of well-being, and also their voting patterns. And we call that individual cohesion. And we analyze kind of the member states' perspective, so each member state's economic and political ties and practices within the EU. That's what we call structural cohesion. We have just finalized the 4th edition of our monitor. And we have now data available from 2007, so the year before kind of this crisis decade started, until 2019. It has been published 2 hours ago and can be found online on our website. So Google ECFR, EU Cohesion Monitor, and you'll find it. The other tool I'm referring to is the EU Solidarity Tracker, which is an interactive data tool where we visualized instances of pan-European solidarity from early March to late September 2020. And based on this data, I was delighted actually to hear our Foreign Minister Maas talking about his optimism about the EU. Because too often, I think the way we talk about the EU is framed by doom and gloom. And of course, the many crises of the past decade help us talking like this, but we very much tend to focus on the EU's failures and shortcomings. And we tend to forget the EU's achievements and what we have. So, but if we talk about the EU mainly in negative terms and make that our main narrative, I think we should not be surprised that so many people no longer support the European integration project. So the first thing I want to talk to you about today is successes. And when we look at our data, there is a story of breathtaking resilience of the EU in there, even in light of the economic and political crises of the past decade. It is as if there was a kind of glue that holds the EU countries and societies together. And this glue consists of many bonds and connections between member states, between societies, between the EU institutions and the member states on all different levels. And I think it's like a dense web, a spider web, and that has helped us to manage crises in very difficult times. And of course, we saw ups and downs since 2007 in our data, but actually European cohesion has been remarkably strong and has been able to recover all the time. So although in the beginning of the COVID crisis, there was the sense of my country first, there were border closures and export bans, solidarity between member states and also between civil society, between citizens, actually pretty quickly emerged. And the EU institutions did play a decisive role. Looking at solidarity during kind of the first wave of the COVID crisis, we were able to track more than 1,200 instances of pan-European solidarity. So Heiko Maas has basically every reason to be optimistic about the EU's future. And the COVID crisis has hit us at a moment when cohesion between us, between member states, between citizens was actually at the highest level ever since we started tracking it, since 2007. So it was at an all-time high in 2019. However, I wanted to talk about successes, but I don't want to lie to you. So I don't want to kind of paint the picture overly rosy. Of course, there are challenges, and COVID is a very big threat to European cohesion right now. Of course, it has hit all of the EU, but to different degrees. And it's a major stress test now for European cohesion, because some countries are better prepared than others, especially in terms of cohesion. So, for example, we have one factor that we look at all the time, that is trust in the EU. And it's really significant how much lower the trust level in the EU is in countries of the South, most of all in Greece, in Italy, but also in France. And I think if a trust level in the EU, in a society is very low, it's a different precondition than in other societies where this trust level is very high. So I think, and our data shows this already, that COVID-19 is likely to reinforce some already existing differences between the EU member states. For example, economic differences between North and South. COVID is also a new challenge to European cohesion because of the situation. We cannot experience Europe like we used to because of the lockdowns, because of border controls, because of quarantine, and all that has narrowed our opportunities to experience Europe. And the thing here is that already before the crisis has hit us, countries in the south and in the east of Europe have been less connected to the rest of the EU. There have been less other EU citizens living in these countries. These people from these countries have been traveling less to other parts of the EU, and now the crisis re-emphasizes this. And yeah, I think that is a very significant challenge. Another challenge is that in these days of lockdown, people experience Europe mainly through public media. So media is our window to the outer world, to our friends and partners in the European Union. So it's really important how they portray the crisis. And actually, one of our factors is press freedom in the EU, and it has been weak in several countries of the EU South and East. And I don't want to point fingers, but I mean, there is a reason why in Poland, people talk about the Polonization of the media landscape, and the way the crisis is framed as very negative when it comes to the EU terms. And actually that has already created a debate within the Polish society. So there are different challenges to European cohesion, and these challenges require regional answers. And therefore it is super important that there is something like a public awareness, a European public sphere that makes sure that people know that these challenges exist. Because someone from Sweden, I mean, how can you expect him to show solidarity to Poland or to Portugal if he doesn't know anything about the situation on the ground? So without a European identity, without the awareness of others and a feeling of attachment to them, I think there is a little basis for solidarity here. And I think the coronavirus crisis can actually be a unifying moment because all countries are affected by it. But we really need that pan-European debate that the foreign minister also referred to, that make us understand that the challenges in the EU are different, and that we need to understand better what makes people worried in this crisis in the different regions, countries, and yeah, we need to better understand each other. And therefore, I think the European public space is desperately needed. Thank you very much.